So the Indian Army is in the process of raising a Division 11 formation to be deployed in the sensitive eastern Ladakh region. Now, this new division is in addition to the existing 3-Div, which is responsible for the LAC region. But then 3-Div has other responsibilities. This is a major reorbiting or reorganization of battle order, especially in Ladakh. The strategy involves redeployment of existing troops to enhance their effectiveness or operational effectiveness. A division, by and large, has between 10 and 15,000 combat troops, about 5 to 8,000 support elements. It's led by a 2-star general, a major general, has 3 to 4 brigades commanded by a brigadier each. So what does this Orbat mean? Why is this happening, this change in Orbat? I quickly want to bring in India Today's Shivani Sharma breaking that big story for us here. Also with me is Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, distinguished fellow at the VIF and somebody who's commanded a corps in Ladakh, knows the lay of the land very well. But Shivani, bring us details of the new div that's being raised in Ladakh.
Gaurav, we've already seen that after 2022's Galwan clash, the restructuring or the reorganization of the army was happening, especially after the evolving threat assessment by the army. So now this is a new div that is being raised for the security of eastern Ladakh, along with the 3-Div that already exists there and that had been looking for the security of this region, especially the 832-kilometer long LAC that falls in this particular region. So this new div will have, as you were also mentioning, 3 to 4 brigades. One of these brigades is already functional, and we know that uniform force was moved to this area after Galwan clash, and now we also see a lot of action happening in Riyasi, in Jammu, south of Pir Panjal. So that uniform force needs to go back to its original base. And the training for these troops who have to be a part of 72 Div, the new Div has been named 72 Div. They will be moving shortly to the location in eastern Ladakh. So this is a major development where the order of battle has been changed and is being taken up for a better permanency.
Shivani, stay with me for a moment. I want to bring in General Rakesh Sharma quickly into this conversation. General, what does the new division indicate? Is this new LAC, the LOCization of the LAC, are we to understand that, sir? So I think you're on mute. Request you to unmute yourself, General.
Beyond retirement, we are normally mute. Thank you, Gaurav, for inviting me. You see, 72 Division was supposed to be raised as part of the Northern Capability Model decided in 2012-13. It's not a new item on the horizon. It was already decided at that time. And the one division was raised in Panagarh under 17 Corps. The second division, 72, under Pathankot, was held in abeyance and not raised at that time. But the government sanction exists from 2013 onwards to raise 72 division. The situation on the LAC was deemed to be better till 2020 happened, with all these meetings that are taking place. So the division was not raised. So the raising of 72 is not a new sanction by the government. It's
that is appreciated. But the concept, the requirement, the technical aspect is appreciated that it was in the works and 2012 onwards. But the fact that it's happening now, what does this mean?
So there are two issues very important. Firstly, the uniform force that took charge of the area south of Trishul is a uniform force which was created for a CI operation. It doesn't have composite elements. It doesn't have, for example, you mentioned like the artillery brigade. It doesn't have the complements of the other arms and services that are part of a division. A division is a composite force. A CI force is created for a particular purpose. So when the CI force uniform was moved upwards, they had to be given it additional elements from the reserves of Indian Army. Now, normally Indian Army doesn't want to shed reserves across into these kind of things. Reserves are required for many other roles. So a uniform force moving in that time, 2020, was necessary. But subsequently, as things came to light, there was voids created south of Pir Panjal, for which another lot of reserves were moved into this area, which the chief has mentioned in one of these interviews earlier. The 10 to 15,000 people have been moved into south of Pir Panjal. So our reserves were sucked into the Trishul area. Reserves were also sucked into the south of Pir Panjal in the Doda area. So then all this had to be redone. So 72 divisions raising was dusted out. It was brought into the fore. It is being raised and taking over the areas south of Trishul. The areas north of Trishul will be handled by 3 division, as it's been handled today also. So
Now,
2 division
does this indicate that India's posture, while it is defensive at the LAC, there is also an offensive angle to our deployment, that India believes in peace, but peace through strength, General? Is that your appreciation?
Exactly. So the advantages is that with this transformation happening, the reserves that we have in central India and many other places which are required for other roles will be now compositely available and trained for that task. So reserves which have been sucked into South of Pir Panjal into a CI role have now go back into their conventional training purposes, which is a very major step happening with the raising of 72 Division. And 72 Division being composite force, even the artillery and other brigades which have come in from down plains to fill in for the uniform force not having it, will now also be moving backwards to their parent formations to do the parental task, which is conventional operation. So the whole structure changes with raising of this division, including the CI getting back to CI, reserves getting back to reserves, and Eastern Ladakh becoming a firmed-in area with the northern sector under 3 Div and the southern sector under 72 Division.
So Eastern Ladakh is now becoming a firmed up area. Point 1, point 2, General. Are we also to understand that even for diplomacy, you need to be able to talk from a position of strength? So while India wants peace, and India and China are having multiple rounds of peace talks at the military level and the diplomatic level, India is keeping our guard up, sir.
So exactly. So the fact is that we have to deter, and deterrence comes in by the force of strength, by hard power. While the talks which have happened in WMCC level repeatedly have been quite advantageous, and it has moved forward. The NSA talks, the SR talks have moved forward also, and there is very good signals coming from both sides. But we can't allow the advantage to be taken by the Chinese. This was happening pre to 2020 also, and the Chinese surprised us in 2020. So we can't allow a similar situation to arrive at. So there has to be a deterrence established on the borders to deter any advantage taken by the Chinese, and also reserves available for us to react to situations where required.
So the kind of armor that is required, the tanks, the artillery that's required, the drones, the other assets that are required, how long before our forces, whether it's in the Arunachal Pradesh, the eastern sector, in the middle sector, Sikkim, in the sector in Uttarakhand, and of course now here Eastern Ladakh, how long before India is well and comfortable to send across that message, one, of deterrence, and two, offensive deterrence?
So modernization is a never-ending process. You can't say 2030, 2035, 40, 47 will be all done, because the adversary would have moved up many steps forward also. So there is many kinds of deterrence. There is dominal deterrence. There is deterrence by punishment or deterrence by denial. Now, we have to assure ourselves of having a deterrence by denial on the borders to make sure that the borders are not infringed upon by the adversary. So that's one part of deterrence that we need to achieve, and which includes the raising of this division and all the other paraphernalia, including missiles and the air power and drones, etc., etc. But then there is essential aspects of deterrence also imply the space and the cyber aspects, or the electronic warfare, which is a continual process which comes up, and also it includes upgradation of your force and getting the readiness going. So this is going to continue for a very long time. It's not that it will be we should give ourselves a time that we will be comfortable in 2035. 2035, who's seen there will be more advancement, maybe there will be direct energy weapons.
Absolutely. You have to be constantly at it. And given, China's expansionism or their thinking, unless there's a change there, we haven't seen that in decades, since 1960s till 2020. Given Galwan, usually when they talk about conflict, it's usually when diplomacy fails, conflict breaks out. But in Galwan, none of the CBMs worked. Rules of engagement in this region remain fluid. So does that indicate that this region will remain fluid in the times ahead, General?
So if you see the quantum of force that the Chinese have located close to us, the typology of infrastructure that they have built, the modernization of force they have come to a level which they are competing with the Americans in many forms and the technology advancements, well, there is a threat. You like it or not like it, even if there is trust developing at political diplomatic levels, there is a threat that exists on the borders and you can't take it easily. So
Absolutely.
while we do whatever we do, we continue, and nobody likes a war. A war is a nasty business. But
It
then,
indeed
you have
is.
to be prepared for it, lest it happens like 2020 or any other instance previously, and we will have difficulty subsequently. So we have to keep preparing for it and hoping that the political diplomatic initiatives will also succeed.
Oh, absolutely. And that with countries like China clearly happens when you talk to them from a position of strength. General Sharma, as always, many thanks for joining me. Shivani, great story you broke here. That's all I have for you on 5 Live this evening. Many thanks for watching.